Hi, this is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle. Well, today is going to be another one of our episodes about the questions get asked in my comments section and which ones have broader application. So I thought we would start the conversation with a couple of questions that have come in from the viewers asking about specifics that apply to an awful lot of different things. And well, the first question comes in, says they'd like to know what is the difference between the 650 and the 6500 SS Pen Spinfishers. So I thought I would expand that just a little bit in terms of the question to include what's the difference between the other two, the Greenie original series Greenies and the Z series, then the next generation, which was the 650, and then the following generation, which was the 100 series, so the 4500, 6500 series. Let's take a look at those and see what the primary differences are. Before we do that, I want to just take a moment to ask you to subscribe to my channel if you like these types of videos, if you want to learn more, and if you would like to understand not only the history of fishing reels and who made them and how they're used, but how to service them and keep them fishing for a long time to come, then a subscription is the best thing. It doesn't cost you anything to subscribe. You get to learn an awful lot. And if you enjoy these kinds of things, well, it's a great way to pass time. All right, let's take a look at the first four generations of the Spinfisher then. The first one is what's affectionately known as the Greenie, because, well, it was green. It was released in 1961, was the first edition of this. That's when the pen spinning reels came along. Tried and true. This one has a design to it that has a spiral drive gear. Beautiful reels. Can fish on and on and on. Had the, from a handle standpoint, had our old torpedo handle, which was something that was seen on all of the conventional reels, and was a nice solid introduction. The next one along the line then was the Z series, which is identical in everything except paint. So they just changed the exterior design, fashion design of the reel. They went from a green reel to a black and gold, and that black and gold has stayed with the Spinfisher line to this day. So very little in terms of a difference other than cosmetic between the first two generations. You'll see them as the 700 series and the 700Z series. Almost all of the parts are interchangeable except for the colored ones. Well, they're interchangeable too, but the color is the main difference there. The next question came in was, or what the core question was, is what's the difference between the 650 series and the 6500 series. That actually came in from the UK. Thanks to all of our viewers who are watching worldwide. Really do appreciate you watching and your support. Well, the main difference between those two reels is in the industrial design. This is the 650. Again, they're kind of beat up, but these are just for the purposes of looking. What do we have? We have a metal case. That's predominantly true of all of the 650 type series reels. And we have what I call as the bang bail. This is a bail that when you open it up, it's going to come over and it's going to hit the post here. That's going to drive the bail to close. Again, these reels need service. Don't take these as primary examples of what a great reel it is. They are great reels. That's why they're here. They're going to get serviced and one day be given a second chance. But metal casing and bang bail is about the biggest difference, or about the features of that reel. What happened on the difference between that series and this series, the 700 and 700Z series, is they went to the SS, which is the skirted spool. That means that the spool goes over the router instead of the spool going into the rotor cup. All right, then the last one then. So the fourth generation then, sometimes I'll call it the third generation, it all depends. This one is a 4500, not the 6500. It was near at hand, and that's why. What changed? It changed to a graphite case, so the reel became lighter, and it changed to an internal trip, so you no longer have the bar that it's going to bang on to release the bails. So a quick overview of the first 4 generations, or sometimes they're called 3 because this one is just a cosmetic change. First 3 generations of the Pen Spinfisher. I hope that that's helped you out and increased your understanding. To this day, the Spinfishers are still great reels. And, well, if you have a question like this, want to know more about the history or the evolution of the reel, please leave that for me. Next one comes in from Martin, I believe. It's a question on a Pen Battle 5000. He says, I have the Battle 5000. When I put the bail up and crank the handle, it won't move when it's in a certain spot. Other times it works fine. What's happening? Okay. To understand that, you need to understand the mechanics of what's going to trip your bail. It's not like the one that we were talking about over here where it's going to ram an exterior post and cause it to trip. This one has a bail trip ramp. And that ramp is a slope on the inside under the rotor here. It's a slope that comes up like this. And you'll find that slope real easy simply by turning your reel. You'll find it's real easy, and then all of a sudden it's going to stop. Oh, I'm sorry. I need to put the bail up. When you rotate it, you'll see it's spinning nice and easy, and then it stops right there. That's where your trip ramp is. So if you are opening up a bail and you are right on that hurdle, yeah, it's going to take effort to trip it. Other times, you're going to open up the bail and you're nowhere near that trip ramp. Well, I'm right on it right there. Isn't that funny? It's going to be nowhere near it. It's going to spin easier to trip the bail. So why does it happen in that? You're right on the point where that trip ramp is engaging the Z-bar or the trip lever on the reel. That's going to make it harder because you need more effort to push the rotor around up the ramp to snap the bail. Good question. Thank you for asking that. Okay, next one comes in from Ray, and it says, my grandson just acquired several reels in working condition, with the words after it, not hardly. He had a 309. They took it apart. They found out that the anti-reverse dog was out of place and the spring was missing. And he's passed along a tip. He said that the spring of a butane lighter, this isn't that, this is a spring, but the spring of a butane lighter fits well and works fine. It seems to be the perfect length. Well, that dog trip spring is going to be about that size. It's going to be a little bit smaller, but it does bring us to a tip. If you need a spring and you can't find one, there are other places for that spring. One of them is the butane lighter. You're going to have to break it off to do that. Here's another one. Yep, it's a spring from a ballpoint pen. And a lot of times you're going to find, we were talking about that trip mechanism inside of a bail. A lot of times you're going to find that there is a spring similar to this on the inner workings of the bail trip on a spinning wheel. Well, crack open your favorite ballpoint pen. You may have the solution to your issue. So thanks to Ray for passing that along to me. Next one came up and says, what kind of penetrating oil is that you're using? Well, most of the time, what I'm using is WD-40. Why? It's available. It's available. I like the little nozzle to flip up, flip off kind of a spray. I like that in the can, but I'm not a slave to it. I tell you that most of the time I will use the penetrating oil as a degreaser. And you can see it as it's a lubricator. It stops squeaks, it removes and protects, it loosens rusted parts. It's basically a little bit of an all-purpose type of an oil. It says so right there, multi-use product. I use the WD-40, but that's not the only one you can use. I recommend whatever the store is that you're in, if you need a can, whatever it is that they are doing, offering, that's fine. Here's another one that a lot of folks like. It's the CRC Quick Clean, same idea. Parts cleaner and degreaser. That's kind of what I'm using it for in terms of a purpose. And I also use Liquid Wrench, and I also use Master Blaster, although I don't like the scent of a Master Blaster. And for tough stuff, I often use Croyle. and I like the coil, but unfortunately, again, it has that same smell to it as the Master Blaster. I'm not quite sure what it is. Okay, I often get asked what lubricants I use, and most of the time that is the Pen products, the Pen Precision Reel Grease. Why? Because it comes in a 1-pound tub, and I use a lot of grease. I also use the Pen Precision Reel Oil because it comes in a 4-ounce container. I use a lot of oil. There's plenty of others out there. Almost every manufacturer has their greases. You have the Quantum Hot Sauce, and Shimano makes their greases. Everybody has their greases. Oils, I use the Lucas. This is kind of worn off, but the Lucas fishing reel oil. I use Reelex. And as I said, most of the time I'm using the Pen. I'm not convinced that there's a big difference between the lubricants and the oils. I just know that they're designed for marine use, and if they're used for marine use, fishing environments, that's all I can really recommend. Okay, I recently showed this tool off. This tool is a teaminternational.com 4-way wrench. I believe it's 8, 9, 10, and 11, but it might be 9, 10, 11, and 12. It's a 4-way wrench. It works great, particularly if you need to remove things like the rotor nuts. Nice handy tool. And somebody commented, Chris commented, he said, those 4-way wrenches can be had at model airplane hobby shops. They use them for prop nuts. Got 3 or 4 of them, Chris. So if you're looking to acquire one of these, it's a very versatile tool. And we'll check out model airplane hobby shops or online. I think that probably would be a good way to go with that. Okay, the other one kind of is a question I have addressed in one of my most popular videos. It's about line lay, and they say my line is spooling all the way to the top. What is happening, and how do I correct that? Well, if your line is spooling all the way to the top, it means that your spool is not rising enough on the crank, and it is an oscillation. You can see the spool goes up and down. Well, if it's always going to the top, or is top heavy versus the bottom, it means that this is not traveling high enough to allow for the line to accumulate on the bottom in an even fashion. The way to solve that is most manufacturers will include 2 or 3 or 4 spool height adjuster washers. Let's see if we can get this one off. I'm probably on the wrong one. Yeah, this is a little bit different, but on the spool height adjuster washers, you would stack an additional washer to raise the spool up to allow it to gather to the bottom. If you have the reverse problem to that, in that the line is all gathering on the bottom and not the top, it means you have too many washers underneath. You need to lower the spool because the spool is not coming down enough to allow your string to gather up to the top. So look at the height adjusters that you have on your spool, and that generally will correct the issue by changing the number of washers that you have, adding them if you're gathering to the top, and reducing them if you're gathering to the bottom. Okay, there's one other issue with this, and that might be on this particular reel, for example. Oh, I'm having trouble getting this button back on, but I am. That's okay. I got a question on a 306. No, I'm going to leave that off for now. Got a question on a 306. It does not have one of these. What's a 306? It's a early Mitchell reel. It says my line's gathering up top. Well, it's interesting because there are no shim washers on that reel. If you find that it's gathering up top or on the bottom, the next culprit on something like that is normally a bent bail wire or a weak bail travel spring. Notice if you're got a weak spring and pulling the line when you're reeling is pulling the bail arm this way, it's never going to get up top. It's going to load center and down. If your bail wire is bent in the up position, it's always going to travel to the top of the spool and not the bottom. So check your bail wire, check your bail spring if you're in a situation where you have an adjuster that you can't make work. Okay, I think maybe that's it. Yeah, that's it for the questions that I got recently. I hope you enjoy these kinds of episodes. I always like sharing a little bit of what I've learned over the time. Covered a lot of things. What's the difference in a Spinfisher, the first 4 generations of it, lubricants. We talked a little bit about why a bail is harder to trip in a certain position. And we've talked a little bit about the line lay on a reel itself. That's the idea behind the questions. If you have a question that you'd like an answer to, please leave it in the comment section. I will try to answer your questions for you. If they have broad applicability, I will try to include them in a now and then kind of a session that answers these questions for the general good of all of our viewers. I really do appreciate you all watching, asking those questions, helping make this channel better. I also appreciate everything that our first responders do, our police, fire, safety, rescue, everybody involved in keeping us out of harm's way. Can't get tired enough of thanking them for the jobs that they do day in and day out. I hope this has been informative. I wish you all great fishing, have fun on the water, and have a great day. This is Dennis with Second Chance Tackle.